Welcome back to New Rockstars. This is Big Question, the show that gives you too much information about the best way to watch an entire city get blown to smithereens while people get the flesh ripped from their bones like wet toilet paper.
Oh God.
Like, yes, really graphic. I'm MT, and I'm here today with the man, the myth, the legend, Erik Voss. How you doing today, Erik?
I'm doing good, MT. Are we doing our boom boom episode? We're breaking booms.
We are breaking booms
Finally.
today.
Boom, you looking for this?
Oh my God, we gotta talk about a lot of booms, whole lot of booms about to go down. So get ready, because in the recently released Zack Snyder film, The Army of the Dead, one of the main plot points revolves around a nuclear strike to kill all of the zombie tourists hanging out in Las Vegas. Now, I for one love a big nuclear explosion in a movie as much as the next guy, so that got us thinking about this week's big question: what are some of the best and worst uses of nuclear explosions in cinema? And how does the nuke in Army of the Dead rank among them?
We gotta be honest with our viewers, MT. We've just been dying to do a nuke episode of this show.
Bombs.
Because I don't know about you, I just like going through YouTube and being like, ooh, yeah, there's a nuke in this scene. Oh, how do they make it look there? Just Hollywood's take on something that's so horrible and terrifying. It's just kind of fun to see how wrong they get it. We're not nuclear experts, but we know when something's a little over the top or when something's just like too triggering. What we'd like to do is go through the most iconic nuke scenes in movies and kind of rate, should people be more worried about the radioactive fallout afterwards and maybe get under a concrete structure or something, or get as far away as they can? What we decided to do is divide these up into kind of 3 tiers. And rank them based on their, I guess you could say, range of narrative weight, as in terms of how necessary are they for the story, or are they really just spectacles?
And first we have the bonkers and mostly implausible uses of a nuke, like borderline unnecessary and used just for spectacle. And secondly, we have our realistic nukes designed to evoke fear and used as like a cautionary tale of sorts, and these are usually a bummer. And then finally we have the more cerebral what have we done category.
What have we done?
What have we done? Good God. This is where the nukes are just like a first step that create the new horrifying world that the characters have to deal with. And the goal isn't to bum out the audience, but to explore the scary sci-fi consequences of that nuke. So let's put on our radioactive suits as we trudge into the blast zone and rank these big old boom booms.
A boom boom boom. Yeah, boom boom boom. All right, MT, thanks for laying that out. Yeah, we'll start with the bonkers. So these are the movies where it's just ridiculous, wildly inaccurate, pretty much pointless to the plot, maybe downright bad. And we'll start with the one that kind of changed the game for how we talk about movies.
Oh boy.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This is the movie that gave us the origin of the phrase nuke the fridge, replacing jump the shark, essentially. But this is the movie that begins around Area 51 in Nevada in 1957. It's the same region where Army of the Dead begins, but goes in a very different direction. And basically, after having some hijinks with Cate Blanchett, Indy ends up in a nuclear test site and goes into a lead-lined fridge and is somehow able to survive a test nuke and is able to look up at the mushroom cloud and doesn't really seem to have any kind of radiation poisoning afterwards.
Yeah, he seems totally fine. He's just like, hey, cool, look at that radiation cloud that I'm staring directly at.
Some would say he looked stronger as that movie went on. What was in that nuke?
Implying that he got superpowers?
No, but yeah. Now, actually, this is kind of based on real nuclear tests that were happening in the Nevada desert at the time as part of the military's Operation Plum Bomb. But even though these sites did exist, no way Indy would survive that. Yeah, everything else in that makeshift town is completely wiped out, but the fridge is just kind of punted, Doesn't make sense. And it's even unlikely that the lead lining in that fridge would be enough to protect him. Like, some British undergrads were publishing a report on this scene in the Journal of Physics Special Topics in 2016. They concluded, quote, "It is unlikely Indiana would have remained unharmed from the gamma radiation, as the minimum thickness of lead needed is 4.58 centimeters, which is likely to be greater than the thickness of the lead lining within the fridge."
The minimum thickness?
And everyone in the UK is like, why are you doing this? Why?
Let's talk about the minimum thickness, Eric. What's the minimum thickness?
Just shut up. Just shut up, you stupid American. Your accent sounds stupid to us. Yeah, and of course, gave us the phrase nuking the fridge. I think we can all agree, bonkers.
Majorly bonkers and highly inaccurate.
Now, I would also say the same for a movie I actually really love, The Dark Knight Rises. The third of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, which brought in the nuclear bomb into Gotham City as a way of just to have a ticking clock, a literal bomb, like kind of the most Adam West Christopher Nolan went, you know, to have a bomb that Batman has to disarm.
I wish it was like a big old like cartoon looking bomb with a fuse. Yeah. It's like, I gotta get this out of here. It's a nuke.
And, you know, while the idea of, you know, a stolen nuke or turning a reactor into a nuke, I don't know, you can argue how plausible it is. The craziest thing about it is, how does Batman freaking survive it? Like, he totes it out across the water, and there must have been some kind of bat submarine out there waiting for him. There's no way he could have just dropped it and been far enough out of the blast radius to survive it.
Come on, Eric, he's Batman. He just dodged it. He was like, whoops, got it. Trying to get me, whoops.
It's one of many logical leaps in that movie that, at the end of the day, I forgive because I love so much what Nolan did with that trilogy. But of the three, Dark Knight Rises is the hardest one to go back to. It might be because we have to root for an army of police officers beating up protesters. It's just kind of hard to reconcile that.
Yeah, going back is kind of rough. And the actual fight is laughable because, like, it's just in the background. No one's hitting anyone. It's just, it looks like comedy. Like, go back and watch that scene because the fight, like, the background actors are just hilarious to watch.
Yes. Oh, and even earlier in that movie, remember there's that background actor, who the stunt guy who was just, like, acting like Batman was hitting him, but he just went, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
And fell around. Just quite a few oversights in that one.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan, this is not his strong suit, I feel, but he's a great director.
He's so good, yeah. Which is why we can make fun of it. It's like, really? Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next Bonkers title. This obviously is a Bonkers one. Armageddon, right? The space nuke. Nuke in space. Which glows bluish green, apparently, right? That's
like all nukes, really. A bluish green nuke.
I mean, look, with a lot of sci-fi space nukes, it's, you know, you can argue how ridiculous they are. It really is just silly because everything in that movie is silly, and there's no way. You don't need it to be a nuke in the movie. It's just, oh, we just wanted to put a nuke in there because that's how Michael Bay decided.
It just raises the stakes or something. It just makes it cooler.
There's that one scene where the NASA engineer scientist was talking about if you close your fist around a firecracker, then if it blows up your fist, it'll blow up an asteroid the size of Texas, I guess. And the problem is they kind of have this goofy ADR at the third act of the movie where they talk about all the chunks of the asteroid are blown out of Earth's range, you know, so not even pieces of it hit Earth.
The two halves are going to miss us by 400 miles, and most of the small particles have been vaporized.
It definitely would have vaporized that shuttle as it was trying to get away.
For sure. It would, Earth would have not. I feel like Earth wouldn't have survived that. I don't know.
No. Yeah, that's a huge... I mean, you could have an asteroid the size of like a football field, and it would cause an extinction level event.
Yeah, that's every time I look up at the sky, I'm just like, you know what? One of these days it could happen. It could happen anytime, you know? Just live every day like it's your last. Remember that, kids. Why did I make this so morbid? Anyway, moving on.
It's a morbid episode. And we should say scientists did dig into it. I love it when scientists look into movies or when Mythbusters goes all into it. It's like, yeah, let's actually think about this. And physics students at the University of Leicester concluded that Bruce Willis would have needed a nuke 2 billion times stronger than the one used in the film to blow up the asteroid the size of Texas.
Wow, 2 billion.
Places this in the bonkers category.
Wow, I feel bad for the nuke that they did have because it just wasn't good enough. It wasn't strong enough, you know?
Yeah, it's gonna have some kind of self-confidence issues. Which brings us to our sponsor, Blue Chew. Just kidding. We also got to throw in Independence Day in this.
Oh,
which
I love it.
You can't forget, featured 2 nukes, my friends. They tried to nuke the alien ship over Houston, and it just wiped out the city of Houston, but didn't do any damage to the alien ship.
Negative.
And then at the end, they get the nuke, you know, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum, they get the alien fighter into the mothership and they nuke it from the inside, and it works. Kind of plays similarly to the Armageddon nuke, where they just got to outrun the blast. You can never outrun a blast. I don't care how fast you're going. Maybe the speed of light. But they're going the speed of light.
Maybe Captain Marvel could, but like, hey, most people, nah, I don't think so.
And I should say, this does not take away any of our enjoyment of these movies. I love Independence Day. I love Armageddon.
Love them.
Dark Knight Rises, all these movies, I love them with my heart. We're just really just talking about the nukes in these movies, so don't say that we're hating on these movies. It's fine. Now, we also want to talk about the movie The Crazies that came out in 2010, and it's actually real similar to Army of the Dead in that there is kind of like a zombie-esque anger virus, rage virus that sweeps through this small town of Ogden Marsh, Iowa. Pretty great film, and it ends, spoiler warning, with, you know, the government being like, we're just gonna blow up this city, and they use a nuke. The problem is there's just kind of like some implausible, you know, they're driving a semi down a highway and it gets completely rolled over, but no one dies. They don't have their seatbelts on. Yeah, so the explosion itself looks pretty cool, as often these do. They got the good mushroom cloud in there. They got the shockwave.
I like a good mushroom cloud, man. That's a staple.
But they often miss things like EMP. They miss the thermonuclear aspect of it where the air literally catches on fire. That you rarely see because it's horrifying.
I wonder if we're ever going to get like a really accurate, like just nuking in a scene. Because that would just be really graphic.
Well, my friend, we have some later on this list. You hold on to your
okay, all right, okay.
But just to shout out a couple more bonkers ones, there's a 96 movie Broken Arrow with Travolta, where nukes get stolen, they do an underground detonation, and that one's ridiculous because he turns off his truck to say, hey, yeah, we got through the EMP pulse, but like that would still disable it. The thing could still be off. It's gonna fry whatever the electronic device is. It doesn't have to be on at the moment. You're not outsmarting a nuke there, Travolta.
I feel like these movies are giving us a really optimistic look at what a nuke would look like if it actually happened.
Right.
It's like, it'll be fine. There would be no EMP type consequences. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, the EMP would be the least of your worries if you're with So maybe, I guess you have a point there. But I think this is all just to get Travolta to shout, God damn, what a rush.
Travolta, straight up, just like Oscars everywhere.
He's got chills. They're multiplying. It's electrifying. And we'll also throw in True Lies. True Lies detonated. I mean, James Cameron, that man loves his nukes. They blew up one of the Florida Keys, which, I mean, why stop at one?
I mean, blew up the Titanic, and that's how that went, right?
Yeah. War of the Worlds has the moment where they tried to nuke the alien ship in Independence Day. That was kind of a reference to the 1954 War of the Worlds where they threw a nuke in the alien ship and it was just like unscratched. Yeah. So these are just kind of crazy. It's just like ways to show escalation. Don't really do anything to the plot, and it's just to give you some fireworks, right? So that's our bonkers category. We now move on to our realistic category. This next ring of Fallout from the Blast Zone. This is just where the story is more about the horrors of nuclear war, and they're meant to inspire fear into the hearts of the viewer.
As they should.
As a cautionary tale.
Not fun.
Right. Exactly. And so just to run through a few examples of this, we have The Sum of All Fears. This was the film with Ben Affleck that was based on the Tom Clancy novel, where basically Jack Ryan he's trying to track down a stolen nuke, but it's a smaller one. And it's used as, I believe it's a group of neo-Nazis in a way to spark a war between Russia and the United States.
Hydra.
Yeah, similar. And they target the Super Bowl in Baltimore.
Oh, geez.
So you do get to see a nuke, and this came out right after 9/11. I remember seeing this in the theater, and everyone was kind of freaked out. I think they delayed the movie a little bit because people were kind of freaked out at that time.
Yeah, I would be very much uncomfortable. Be like, oh, this is too soon. This is way too soon.
Yeah. There's that kind of creepy moment where, like, the president is there and he gets tipped off, and they rush the president out of the stadium, and then there's kind of a weird quiet, and then everyone goes, well, let's play some football!
It's like, well, we don't know what that is, but let's just play some football and nothing bad's gonna happen. It's gonna be fine.
Nothing to see here. Please disperse.
The explosion itself, we kind of see from a distance. There's like a bright light. There's a shockwave that takes out the helicopter carrying Jack. It takes out the hospital. Yeah, it's kind of creepy, but really they kind of miss out on the opportunity to look into what would really happen in the aftermath of those. They kind of focus on the political fallout and the brinkmanship that happened afterwards. So it was meant by Tom Clancy to scare the shit out of, world leaders, to be like, this could happen, and you know, if it does happen, let's hope that diplomacy prevails and intelligence is listened to.
I think that there's immense value in movies like these because of what you just said. It's just like, you know, people can't fathom the true devastating nature of a bomb until like people like artists like that show you like this is our capabilities. This is what happens when we let hate go out of control. Right. So like let's you know, relax with the nuclear threats or anything, you know, and just like, you know, go back to regular sticks and you know, good old fisticuffs, you know what I mean?
I'm about to open a fat can of whoop ass on you. Bring it on, bitch.
The sticks and stones, all they do is break your bones, but they don't melt them, and that's the key.
Exactly. Your bones will be fine. And not melted if you just don't use nukes. You know?
I wish I had no bones.
Done.
That ought to show you.
Now we got to move on to my favorite title on this list, T2 Judgment Day.
Oh God, it's the classic one.
It's the scariest one.
I remember watching it as a kid and being like, I don't know if I can continue this movie.
It messed me up. Like, so all the Terminator movies are in a way about the fear of technology and a fear of like global annihilation, because I think that's kind of the fate in all of these, that like mankind will destroy itself with nukes really hijacked by Skynet. But T2 shows us this nightmare sequence where she takes a little nap and then, you know, she's on the playground. It's Judgment Day, which in that movie was August 29th, 1997. We made it!
Yay! Just like in real life. I'm just kidding.
And you see the city of Los Angeles just get wiped out. This one is the first one I remember seeing that showed the true thermonuclear blast of a wave of fire hitting everything, because you see kids and mothers on this playground just being blown into skeletal ash. And it's horrifying.
It is genuine. Like that's the first nuclear explosion I've ever seen in a movie. So after that, I was like, wow, nukes are awful. Like straight up awful. And like you said, because like it was like the kid and like parent imagery of like the playground, it was just like, wow. I'm a kid and like I thought I was safe. So like, good God.
For it to hit a playground is what really unsettled everybody watching this, especially. But that's what you got to do. You got to show that's what happened. But I think it makes the movie so much better because it really gives so much stakes to what Sarah Connor's paranoia and her fear is. It makes her less crazy in that moment because we all connect with her fear so viscerally in that moment. And it looks so cool because like, James Cameron, that guy is insane about his research. He consulted with a ton of people about what this would actually look like, and looked at a lot of like test imagery of when like these towns were blown up, and like he basically used a lot of model work, a lot of great effects in this to make it look as realistic as possible.
That's some bummer research, man.
And so when you see their flesh getting burned off, that is what it would look like. Your skin would catch on fire.
That is terrifying.
Now, it would happen in a moment. I don't think it would be so drawn out. You wouldn't be screaming as a skeleton. It would happen in like the blink of an eye.
How does James Cameron's wife feel? Like he's coming home from work with all this like research. He's like, I can't talk to you, honey. I gotta think about how a nuclear blast would affect the human body.
Oh, you mean James Cameron's wife at that time, Catherine Bigelow? Maybe a little busy making Point Break. An amazing movie. No nukes, but a great movie. Early
Point
90s.
Break is a great movie.
They were a busy couple in the early 90s. That brings us to what many people might consider the most haunting title here. It's called The Day After. This is in 1983. It was a made-for-TV movie on ABC that was really production quality of what a movie would be at that time, and it had massive views. This was 100 million people watched the program during the initial broadcast, and it scared the crap out of people because this was at, many would say, the second height of the Cold War. So you had the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 60s. That's where like, we got real close. And then things kind of settled a bit down in the 70s. But then when Reagan got in there, that guy was nuts at first. He was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. He brought in SDI. That's what it was nicknamed Star Wars, where he's like, we're going to have satellites that shoot down the nukes from the sky. And then we'll be able to nuke Stalingrad, Moscow, and who took my jelly beans? Nancy. Where am I?
Really good range.
Well, the
That is
guy
so good.
had a melted brain for the last year of the presidency, and it was terrifying. Also,
Jeez.
I'm not a big Reagan fan. Not gonna get too political. I'm just saying the guy's freaking overrated, and many of the problems we have with our country are thanks to him, including the collapse of our, mental health social safety net. Thanks, Reagan. But
Thanks.
Yeah. Anywho, but to give Reagan some credit here, he actually watched this movie, and it freaked him out too, and he made all the Joint Chiefs watch it as well. And a lot of people say this movie had a profound effect on his rhetoric, his tone about nuclear brinkmanship.
Bro, that is so cool. I love that fact.
Yeah. But just to give you guys a sense of what this is, it literally is about the day after a hypothetical nuclear strike following some families in Kansas and Missouri. And it's because nukes have hit all the populated areas, and it just follows the day after where literally like nuclear fallout is raining down on them. And you get these horrifying montages of crowds running through cities as panic as they know the nukes are coming down. You see these the EMP blast shutting down their cars, and then people get kind of wiped out in this flash of red light, exposing their skeletons.
Dang.
It's pretty sickening.
I can't believe we made these types of weapons, man. That's so awful.
Yeah.
That's so awful.
It was so depressing for a lot of people that ABC and local TV affiliates opened 1-800 hotlines with counselors standing by during the broadcast.
Oh my... Bro, honestly, I probably would have been freaking out too, because the Cold War was no joke. Like, that is anxiety city. Like, releasing a movie like that during that time, like, that is going to, like, increase anxiety times a zillion. But it's a good thing to see because of, like, those effects that you talked about earlier.
Yeah. And if you ever watch The Americans on FX, they do a whole episode on it, how they watch it on TV, and then that kind of freaks out, Elizabeth and Philip as well. Like, the kids are all depressed by it. It was a big deal in the 80s. And another big cautionary tale, but one with a more lighter tone, is Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove. A great film. You have to watch it if you haven't seen it.
Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and
Love the bomb.
It's just probably the funniest movie about mutually assured destruction, for sure. It's a satire of the way political leaders bicker and try to alpha each other out and just refuse to listen to logic.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
And
it's a timeless hobby of theirs.
Yeah, so ready to drop the bomb until we eventually get it. You get that famous shot of Major Kong riding the bomb down to its target like it's a wild stallion. Woohoo! It ends with this insane montage of nukes going off everywhere to "We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when."
Creepy.
It's terrifying, but it's the closest you'll get to laughter during this type of thing. But it did make a lot of people think the way the day after did. But this has been depressing. We got to move on to our biggest category of what have we done?
What have you done?
We're ending here because this, I think, is the most effective use of nukes in cinema if you're just trying to entertain, while still get people to think about it, because you're able to explore the implications in a sci-fi or horror way, but still makes you think about the nukes a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta think about the nukes, man. You can't forget about the nukes.
And you don't have to go home and lose sleep over it and have to go talk to an ABC 1-800 hotline therapist about it.
Stop it. Get some help.
I wish I had an ABC on 800 number for just regular life, whenever I'm feeling lonely. Just, hey, ABC.
You just call Whoopi. Call Whoopi on The View.
Just, oh my God, of course. Of course. That should be my number one choice. Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg. The best.
You'll hear her snapping at Meghan McCain. She'll be Meghan talking to MT.
Those are the only clips of The View I ever see.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Just Meghan McCain saying something crazy and Whoopi just like, settle down.
We gotta go to commercial. Meghan, we gotta go to commercial. Now, the first two of this category we're gonna bring up are just kind of like, ones that we normally talk about in New Rockstars. Of course, the Avengers, where Tony Stark throws the nuke at the Chitauri fleet and pisses off Thanos. And we grouped this in this category because really, if you think about it, that was the moment that kind of kicked off the Infinity Saga. It's what got Thanos' attention. That moment in Infinity War where Thanos said that he knew who Tony Stark was, and they're both kind of futurists they had that moment.
Right.
He knew who the Iron Man was because that's the guy who threw a nuke at his fleet through the wormhole to Earth. So that's what put Earth and the Avengers on Thanos' shit list. So it really kind of started this whole wave of dread and doom for the Avengers, that one use of a nuclear warhead. I mean, Tony Stark didn't fire it. You know, the American military fired it, trying to just wipe out New York in that way. But Tony threw it up. Now, it kind of looks like any space nuke does, whether it's Armageddon or Independence Day. It's a big flash of light, sure. And you could say that Tony, it's plausible that he escapes it because he falls through a wormhole, and then that wormhole closes. So whatever happened on the other side of the space, he doesn't have to worry about.
I really like that imagery in the movie with Tony Stark having to be the one to send the nuke away because he spent his entire life making weapons and nukes like that. So I'm just like, yeah, this is really great. It's like I have to send this one outside to defend the people. It's just 100%.
It was great.
Yeah, and you see in Iron Man 3, like even though the nuke didn't go off, like Tony was really messed up about the events of New York and like seeing a nuke go off in front of his face. Like I'm sure he's never really seen that. So as he fell through the hole, it's like, wow, I'm probably gonna get a shit ton of radiation right now.
Yeah, it probably freaked him out. Now, similarly, there's the nuke in The Wolverine. It's a James Mangold 2013 movie. A pretty cool scene. Yeah, it's kind of like historical fiction because it shows World War II era Wolverine in a POW camp. And you kind of see the atomic bomb dropped over the city of Nagasaki, which destroyed the town with a 22 kiloton blast. And you see it play out from Logan's perspective as a POW as he just waits for the explosion to get over with. But then he ends up saving the officer by covering him with a large piece of metal to shield him from the fiery winds, while Wolverine just gets his body burnt up. And that ends up fitting in this category as well because it sets up the whole story that takes place decades later, where Wolverine catches up with that guy and ends up setting up everything in that plot. It's kind of the start of the movie, and it reminds you of the horror of that moment while not dwelling on it too much. Some would say this isn't the kind of genre where you want to dwell on it too much. You know, not to say we should never think about that. Yes, think about it all the time. Think about how horrible this is. But in this moment, it just kind of uses it enough to show that fear while moving beyond it and showing how it forged this relationship that ends up having huge narrative implications later in the movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and whenever I think about like nuclear strikes in my brain, like it's the Terminator scene and it's that scene from the Wolverine. Oh yeah. Like it's just seeing him like just burn up. It's just it's such
screaming
a
as
good
it
scene.
Regenerates. Yeah. But the best of this in this genre is the Godzilla franchise. We saw it, in the more recent franchise that Warner's done from 2014 onward, but back to the Toho films of the 50s. Because the original inspiration for the character of Godzilla was the United States dropping atomic weapons, city-destroying weapons. And so basically they conceived this in the form of this giant kaiju. And throughout that franchise, Godzilla starts off as a villain, but ends up being kind of a neutral, a chaotic neutral. And then each of the different kaiju represent, we believe, threats from different countries. So Mothra represents Japan, and it's kind of a gentle giant, you know. You have Rodan, which is kind of a threat from the Soviet Union. King Ghidorah was supposed to be a threat from China. So you kind of have these different things that are all these like different nuclear threats that like Japan viewed as a threat, and they kind of made this giant metaphor out of it. But it ended up creating this beloved franchise that struck at the fear of viewers for just being afraid of being flattened in your city and there's nowhere to run or to hide.
Wait, time out. You're telling me that Godzilla wasn't inspired by Reptar from the Rugrats? Impossible.
I don't believe it. And one of the best things about the later franchise is the 2014 reboot onward has definitely linked back to that whole history. The opening credits of the 2014 film show Godzilla being lured to Bikini Atoll in 1954, where, nuclear testing went on in the Pacific Ocean and created where SpongeBob lives.
I know, I was thinking that too.
I love that theory.
I was like, Bikini, what?
Yeah. So that's like the best example, I think, of like using the fear of nuclear blasts, of nukes, and building something out of it that still continues that cautionary tale. And we've seen this in a couple other franchises. Like, obviously, Planet of the Apes kind of suggested that by the end of that film. They didn't say it was nukes per se, but he did say you blew it up damn you all to hell, which what else would blow up the Earth to that degree? And we didn't see the nuke go off. We just saw the Statue of Liberty, and the implication was that nukes terraform the Earth. And then The Hills Have Eyes is another one that was kind of basically suggesting there was New Mexico nuclear testing created these mutants from all the locals who were irradiated and basically mutated their bodies and made them into these horrifying monsters. So that was kind of a fear of not necessarily the blast itself, but the fallout. And then another one I like to mention is Battlestar Galactica, specifically the 2004 series, because that opens with like the Cylons decimating the planet with these thermonuclear blasts. And then you see the aftermath of it. You see this struggling group of human survivors just trying to rebuild after that and survive the Cylon annihilation. So it's kind of like showing Terminator, but the aftermath of it.
Oh my, I totally forgot that Battlestar Galactica opened like that, because you're totally right. I love Battlestar Galactica. Anyone who hasn't seen Battlestar Galactica, watch that show. It's phenomenal.
So say we all! So say we all!
Yeah, it's fantastic. A lot of Nexium cult members in that cast, but if you could look past that.
Oh God, really?
There's at least 2.
Wow.
But
Jesus Christ.
Pretty much everything you watch in Hollywood, some member of the cast or crew is connected to some kind of problematic cult. And if you like Mad Men, West Wing, or Handmaid's Tale, Elizabeth Moss is a Scientologist. Uh-oh.
Yo, freaking Smallville, bro.
She was in Nexium.
Chloe. Oof. Yeah. That shit fucked me up.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even believe she did that shit.
Why didn't you tell me about this?
We all keep
secrets, Squirrel.
All right, so knowing all 3 of these categories, let's talk about where would Army of the Dead fit into. Part of me wants to say, what have we done? But realistically, I think it might just be Bonkers in that movie. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I would go with Bonkers, because it definitely goes with that vibe.
Yeah, fun to look at, cool mushroom cloud. Doesn't really make any sense. There's no way Vanderho at the end of that movie would have been able to walk through that nuclear fallout. Or he had a zombie bite. He survived for like 13, 14 hours with a zombie bite and didn't turn.
Right. Okay, so Bonkers it is. But before we continue with our bite-sized questions, we have to tell you guys a word from the beautiful people that make Big Question possible. Starting with Upstart. Paying off debt can feel like an uphill battle. I mean, high interest rates can keep you in an endless cycle of debt. But Upstart can help you get ahead. I mean, Upstart is a fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debts, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple, fixed monthly payment. Unlike other lenders, Upstart looks at more than just your credit score, like your income and employment history. This means that they can offer smarter rates with trusted partners. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see their rate upfront for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. You can receive funds as fast as 1 business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/bigquestion. That's upstart.com/bigquestion. And don't forget to use our URL to let them know that we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided on your loan application. Go to upstart.com/bigquestion.
We also want to thank Imperfect Foods for sponsoring this episode. Every year, billions of pounds of food go to waste because it doesn't live up to the strict cosmetic standards of grocery stores. Well, Imperfect Foods is on a mission to reimagine grocery delivery for a kinder, less wasteful world. They deliver sustainable, affordable groceries, including produce, quality protein, and pantry staples straight to your door. All you have to do is sign up, create your flexible, personalized grocery plan, and then shop online each week and get affordable and sustainable groceries delivered directly to your door. With Imperfect Foods, grocery shopping fits seamlessly into your life, and every week is a tasty adventure. Sign up with Imperfect Foods today to save time, save money, and save food from going to waste. And right now, Imperfect Foods is offering our listeners 20% off plus free shipping on your first order when you go to imperfectfoods.com and use the promo code BIGQUESTION. Try Imperfect Foods now. For a limited time, get 20% off plus free shipping on your first order. Go to imperfectfoods.com and use the code BIGQUESTION to sign up. That's 20% off plus free shipping at imperfectfoods.com. Offer code BIGQUESTION. All right, MT.
All right.
It looks like we had some bite-sized questions here. So the first one comes from Flash T-Man on Discord saying, what is Groot's lineage amongst the tree people?
Okay, that's a great question, Flash T-Man. From another T-Man, here's your answer. We're T-brothers now. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway. Our beloved Groot is a flora colossus from the planet X, where the rest of the tree people come from. And the character of Groot was actually introduced to the Marvel family way back in like 1960 in the comic Tales to Astonish number 13, created by Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. Now, back then, he was a giant tree monster attacking Earth, absorbing all the objects made of wood to increase his power and strength. He would make some occasional appearances here and there over the years as a generic villain monster type thing, but it wasn't until 2007 that Groot's story was retconned and he became the three-word speaking hero that we know and love today. I believe that was in the Annihilation series, Conquest series. Our modern Groot is a descendant of an ancient sapline of Flora Colossus. In fact, all the Flora Colossus from Planet X are named Groot. Due to their rigid wooden physiology, their larynx is not flexible enough to have a robust vocabulary. And because of these stiff vocal cords, when they speak, it just sounds like, I am Groot, to our untrained human ears. Because we don't got classy ears like that.
Yeah, our ears suck.
0 out of 10 years. On Planet X, the Groots are a part of a hive mind of the forest and given photonic knowledge by the sage arbor masters who lead the branch worlds. The Groots do have their own unique traits and personalities, and ours is particularly found of the sentient mammals on Planet X that aid and assist the Groots. When he sees other Groots tormenting one of these creatures, he becomes enraged and attacks his brethren, which causes him to be exiled from Planet X. So it's really sad, but it's out of a kindness of his heart. He's a good boy. He's a good boy, Groot. This leads to Groot becoming captured by the Kree and eventually joining the Guardians of the Galaxy when he is rescued by Star-Lord and the crew in 2007. And in 2013, we learned that Groot also goes by the name His Divine Majesty King Groot the 23rd, Monarch of Planet X, Custodian of the Branch Worlds, Ruler of all the Shades.
I like that name.
You know, it's very complicated name. I do like Groot better, I gotta say.
Well, and based on how he talks to people, he is kind of the ruler of all the shades.
He's very shady, yes. But this would confirm that Groot is of royal lineage and also means that he was gifted extremely genius level knowledge by the Arbor Masters. I remember reading a comic series from like a long time ago where Groot is talking to Maximus the Mad, and Maximus is like, did you guys know that this guy's actually a genius? Groot is actually very smart, but he just says, I am Groot. It's hilarious. So whether or not Groot is really of a royal sapline or that is just a story he made up to sound impressive, we may never know, but he certainly did inherit some killer dance moves.
Yeah, he did. What a great answer. Thank you, MT. Oh, one other question. Why was Bruce Wayne raised by Alfred instead of another Wayne family member?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. And to answer that, the concept of the orphan Bruce Wayne being raised by his butler after the death of his parents is actually a modern retcon of Batman's history. Alfred Pennyworth wasn't introduced into the Batman comics until well after, like, Robin, Catwoman, the Joker, and a host of like other villains of the Rogues Gallery had already interacted with the Caped Crusader. And Alfred was introduced in Batman number 16 in 1943, and he was originally unaware of Bruce Wayne's alter ego. Alfred is the son of Jarvis, a previous butler of the Wayne family, which is, you know, apparently a very famous butler name. It's very popular.
Okay, I see what you did there, Marvel.
Okay, I see what you did there.
Who arrives in Gotham City from England to fulfill his father's dying wish that he follow the family tradition and become the Wayne family butler. I don't know why the dreams are so small here, but hey.
You will be a servant.
You will be the servant for the rest of your life, please. It's like, I will, Dad.
Okay, Dad. Damn it.
Wow, that is that's pretty sad. But hey, Alfred, he's literally the best butler out of all of them, so I'm glad he did it. The idea that Alfred raised an orphan Bruce Wayne started with the animated show Super Friends in 1985 on an episode called The Fear. It was eventually merged into comic book canon. Now, this factoid was then cemented with the 1989 Tim Burton Batman film, along with Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins and the recent show Gotham. So Alfred ain't going anywhere. He's here to stay. Yeah. It's like, this is just the canon now. And as for extended family taking in Bruce, he didn't really have any. Like, Bruce was the last of the Waynes, and that's what makes it really significant with the Wayne's death. Unless you account for the immortal Thomas Wayne from the 18th century, aka Dr. Hurt, but I don't think he'd be a really good father figure, so we're not going to really go into that.
Yeah.
But Jacob Kane was introduced in 2011 as Martha Wayne's brother and Bruce's uncle, and Jacob Kane is the father of Kate and Elizabeth Kane, Bruce's cousins, of course. And Kate Kane goes on to become Batwoman, of course, and fight side by side with Batman.
Okay, so that was just kind of released late, and at that point, we had already understood that Alfred was part of the mythology. That makes sense. There you go. Thanks, MT.
Now it is time for my favorite part of the show, It's the box of scraps. Box of scraps.
This is it. All you can eat.
And today's box of scraps question for you, Erik, is what secret has been the most difficult for you to keep in your lifetime?
Oh my God. I'm not very good at keeping secrets. I just kind of, people can always see in my face if I'm hiding something from them. I don't have a very good poker face. And I remember when I was a kid, I was really bad at it, and people just wouldn't tell me the surprise because I would ruin it. And
how rude.
Yeah. I remember so my sister Lucy went into the Peace Corps to Turkmenistan, and we all missed her a whole lot because we didn't get a lot of contact with her. This is the first time anyone in the family had moved away across the world. And my mom had her 50th birthday party, and my dad wanted to have this big surprise party and invite everyone over. And we were going to get home, or he was going to bring her home after lunch, and then everyone was going to be there in the house. But he found a way to get my sister to come home from Turkmenistan just as a visit. And it was such a big deal because there was a lot of moving parts. It's hard to get someone to travel across the world like that from a country like that. But they were able to do it, and it was so hard for me to keep that secret. There's so many times I almost spoiled it. I think at one point I even said, I can't wait to see Lucy. And my sister's like, shut up, Mom's like, what'd you say? And I said, oh, I meant to say it. I said some other sister. I just lied. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was so freaked out.
My long lost sister that I haven't seen.
Another sister. Peanuts Lucy. She's my favorite Peanuts character. My mom's like, I guess Erik just has a weird Lucy fetish. Or the Scarlett Johansson movie that didn't exist yet. I can't wait to see that movie. But no, so the day of the party, I was really nervous. I was going to say something. And then even when the party happened, everyone said surprise and sang happy birthday to my mom. And at the very end of the song, my sister was going to run around the side of the house and sneak up on my mom, put her hands around her eyes and say, guess who? And that's how my mom was going to see and then was going to lose it. And I was so worried I was going to say it out loud or do something to trigger it. And then, so right as the song ended, I was like, oh, I'm going to say it. And then our priest who we invited to the party goes, hey, Nancy, look who's here. He had to be that guy. And then my sister Lucy was like, okay. And then she ran up and was like, hi, Mom. And then the priest ruined the surprise. So I was cleared. I didn't ruin it.
God damn it, priest.
All of us were like, why did Father Tony do that? Why did he have to make it about him? Anyway.
God damn it, Father Tony. Why? Why? Just kidding. He's
a nice guy. He's a nice, jovial guy. He just had... He wanted to be part of it.
But at the end of the day, you didn't spoil the secret.
And yeah, he saved me. So that's why he jumped on the grenade for me. So I always think
maybe he knew that you were about to pop. He's like, you know what? I need to save this boy.
Yeah. How about you, MT? What's the hardest secret that you've ever had to keep?
I would have to say it was my little brother's engagement. Because when my little brother does something, he goes over the top. And so when he set up this whole thing where he pretended so my little brother's fiance at the time anyway was he's a photographer, and so she's like, hey, I have this job for you. So he sent her on this random fake job, just taking pictures while everybody that both of us knew met up at this final location where she was supposed to shoot. And so it was just this really great elaborate plan, and I knew it for weeks. And so whenever I would see his fiance, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? And I love a good surprise. And I love I just love love in general. So I'm just you don't know, really great things about to happen. And I don't know. Part of me is just I really want to say it. I would never spoil an engagement, but it's just wow, this, I know you're going to be really happy. So I just really want to tell you now so I can experience your happiness. But it's, I'm not that selfish as a person. But anyway, I guess that's the only real reason for me.
You kept it though at the end of the day?
I did.
Good on you.
No, right before he was about to do it, I'm like, ha ha ha, wait a minute. Yeah. Joel has something to say to you.
Guess what? Hey, look who's here! And it's
look who's here! It's my little brother. Anyway, you know, it's hard to keep a secret sometimes, but for the most part, I think I do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think so. You've kept my secret from all the Rockstars viewers.
Oh, yes, that you're secretly Hannah Montana.
I mean, wait, what? Damn it, MT.
No one heard that.
Essay. You ruined it for him. That was going to be such a great reveal.
Oh my god, if you were secretly Miley Cyrus, everything I knew about the world would be questioned. You know what? You're giving me more and more evidence that you might be Hannah Montana / Miley Cyrus.
Just take off my clothes and swing around on my wrecking ball.
Oh my god, please. I'm just kidding.
I got my Fitness Origins bod that's gonna last for,
hey, you are looking good, man. I feel like every time I see you, you look more and more healthier, and like you're just like, dang.
Yeah, but
I feel like you look stronger.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Weaker on the inside. That's where it counts.
But that is it for this episode of Big Question. I want to thank Erik for joining me this episode. You can follow him at EA Voss on Twitter or wherever he's at. Follow me at MasterTainment wherever I'm at. And most importantly, please follow New Rockstars. Send us your big questions using the hashtag Big Question. Subscribe to the podcast feed. Give us a nice rating and review because that really helped us a lot. And subscribe to New Rockstars here on YouTube and hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever we upload dope shit. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Stay safe, and we love you guys.
Yeah.
Ta-ta.
Bye.